If my internet.
Picture this. Scientists just confirmed an asteroid is hurtling toward Earth. 1 year until impact. Can we deflect it, evacuate billions, or unite to survive? Let's dive in. This is What If Tomorrow. Welcome to another episode of the What If Tomorrow podcast. I'm Philip.
And I'm Mark.
And I want you guys to picture this. It's April 2028, and astronomers have sounded the alarm. Apophis, which is, I lost it here, but he's like the god of the underworld or something like that. That's what it's named after, the Apophis asteroid. I just lost my spot. Boy, this is a heck of a way to start the show, ain't it? Glad nobody's watching yet.
We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. It's an 1,100 foot wide asteroid named after the Egyptian god of chaos. There it is. It's on a collision course to Earth. This is just a scenario, right? It's set to strike a year from April 2028. We've got 365 days to save ourselves. What's your plan? That tonight, guys, is what we're talking about. Is this specific scenario? We've got some things changing up with the show. Kind of get some business out of the way real quick. Just want you to think about the subject, but also bear with us. We've got some changes. This is the first night we're actually streaming on X. If you're not following us on X over there, go look up What If Tomorrow over there, and on the Fringe. We've also got an X channel over there.
What If Tomorrow on the Fringe? We've got one follower, so
Sweet.
I could use some help.
But yeah, go follow us on X. I'm going to try to be more active over there. It seems like X is really blowing up. I mean, I'm new to it. I had a Twitter account, never really got into it. But I'm finding the more and more I enjoy X. Words are hard. They are, sure. But yeah, go follow us over there. If you're watching or listening, go join us on the YouTube channel. Also, we need more followers on What If Tomorrow on the Fringe over on YouTube. We're trying to split the shows up to help with the algorithm. That way, the algorithm can focus on specific genre or niches, I guess you could say. So go follow us over there too. We stream over on that side on the Fringe, but we're streaming right now on both of these for What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. We're streaming there right now. Eventually, we would like to separate the two, just specifically for the algorithm. Plus, also on, we're streaming on X now on this channel, and over on Facebook. So wherever you're listening, wherever you're joining, welcome to the chat. We'd love to have you in the chat. If you've never been, you're more than welcome to jump in and join. Help us grow this channel. I mean, we've been at it for almost 5 years. I hope the turn we're taking, we're not making massive changes, but I'm hoping that we can bring you a higher quality show. So far, we have our affiliates. I want to play this real quick. Where'd it go? I just lost it. There it is. Boy, I'm not with it tonight, man.
Hey, this is Mark with What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. Be sure to check out our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com, and look at our cool merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, and more. Our affiliates are Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply, and Conflicted the Game. Or check out buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and share on both Facebook and YouTube. It helps get our content out to others and help our channel grow. Now on with the show.
But yeah, do us a favor, help us out with the affiliates. Any way you can help us out. I'm not too proud. We'll take donations too. But yeah, we thank you guys for everything that you do, for all your listeners. But we just ask that you step up, help us grow the show, please. On with the show tonight. Apophis. We're going to touch just on Apophis because that was something specific that I remembered. Um, I think we've talked about Apophis, I think, once before.
I
Do you
believe
remember
so.
that?
Yeah.
It's been a long time ago. I think it was probably one of the first shows we did. I don't even know that we've done an entire show on asteroid impact.
I think we just
But
mentioned the name.
I think so. Um, but we wanted to approach this scenario specifically for we have a year to prepare. Not trying to panic anybody. This is the scenario. We have a year to prepare. An asteroid is on the way, has been confirmed. And actually, in the real news here, maybe a month or so ago, they were concerned that there was a city-sized asteroid, not a city, was a city killer asteroid
Right.
coming in. And they were nervous that, okay, this might be one. And then I saw footage the other day from up in Alaska that there was a meteor that come through burning during the daylight. People were able to see it. It didn't cause any damage. It was wilderness area or whatever, but we're in a shooting gallery.
Oh yeah.
In our solar system, we're in a shooting gallery, and we've just gotten lucky, really.
Well, and we're lucky to have such a large moon,
Right.
which tends to sweep some of that stuff up. It gets hit a whole lot more than we do.
Yep.
Enzo,
what do you think?
bring on the
Greek meat. Well, if you got to go, you got to go, right? Anyway, Apophis was discovered in 2004. It's 375 meters across, roughly the size of the Eiffel Tower. If it hit, it could create a 5.1 kilometer crater and devastate thousands of square kilometers. Though it's not a global killer. It's just imagine how much damage that would do.
Well, yeah, even a land strike would be terrible, but it almost might be worse if it's a water strike because of the tsunami it creates. Depending on where it hits, billions of people could be affected immediately by the tsunami. Take what happens in the Pacific on a fairly regular basis and see what happens with the little ones. Just imagine what happens if you get something that big hitting the ocean and causing a giant tidal wave. LA would be gone.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
I don't know what kind of a wave that would create, but
now I wonder, I'm by no means an expert, and I could probably look it up and find it, but I wonder how, sure, you have your tsunami wave. How high? Who knows? It'd be massive. But I wonder if that also affects the angle of impact, or is affected by the angle of impact, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we're going to look. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm looking up how big a tsunami Apophis would make.
Okay. So tonight we're going to look at bunkers, like survival bunkers, deflection technology, and preservation of knowledge. Mark and I have talked relentlessly about paper, physical books, things like that to retain any kind of knowledge in a preparedness situation. But I really believe that an asteroid impact is probably one of the biggest preparedness situations that we've really dove into. Especially, we've never done it from this aspect. Hey, you have a year. Let's think this through.
Right.
So, for one, you got to think about what's feasible to do in a year. Here we are, first part of May. This year has flown by. Can you imagine? I'm busy as it is personally. granted, everybody's outlook would change. And I guess it begs the question, and I'm not trying to get political here, but would if this was found out to be true, if it was a year out and it was confirmed with no doubt in anybody's mind that this would be an impact event, would the government tell the people?
I really don't think they would.
I don't think so either.
But somebody
Because
would let it slip.
I believe you're right. It'd be tough to keep it under wraps, for those involved. I mean, if they start doing certain things to get ready, their neighbors or whatever, gonna be like, hey, what are you doing this for? It'd be tough to keep a lid on it. But I don't believe that the government, by choice, would share that information.
I don't think they would either.
I think you'd have a select few, and I think we'll get into that here in a little bit. Yeah,
right.
That's going to get into that on our outline. But let's look, the stakes of it. Apophis I'm just using Apophis for an example. There's
the tsunami on that wouldn't be actually that big.
You wouldn't think so? Or is that what it's saying?
It says it would be up to an 800-foot tsunami, but these waves wouldn't be able to travel far, so the hit would need to be within 12 miles of a city.
No.
So it'd be a pretty big splash, but it wouldn't,
Right.
Wouldn't do what I was thinking it might do. So I color myself incorrect.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
So you really would rather hope for a water impact. Sure.
A water impact would do less damage, although wherever it hit, whoever was close by is kind of screwed.
Right. For sure. And that's on an asteroid the size of Apophis.
Yeah, it's relatively small
size. Yeah, it is a pretty small asteroid. Apophis is a 375 meters, so I'm roughly 1,200 feet,
something like that.
And it says that it could unleash the equivalency of a massive nuclear bomb causing regional destruction. We've already kind of hit it. If it, tsunamis if it hits the ocean floor or hits an ocean. We've already talked about that, kind of debunked that a little bit. Post-impact, dust clouds.
Nuclear winter.
Cause a nuclear winter. So you're looking at agricultural disruptions, climate disruptions. But again, an asteroid that size, I guess depending on where it hit, if it hit like Yellowstone, could that cause a chain reaction and cause Yellowstone to go?
That's a good question because, the government has studied the feasibility of setting off fault using nuclear weapons. This wouldn't be much different.
No.
So,
anyway, let's look at what's feasible in a year. I've already asked that question to kind of put you in the frame of mind. Could they repurpose military bunkers?
Sure.
I think they could if they had the desire to. I'm going to throw that disclaimer out. Deep mines.
Yeah.
I think that would take some serious reinforcement. Because then again, there's that question, like I said, if it hit like Yellowstone, could it set off a chain reaction for a volcanic event? Or if it hit a fault line, could it set off earthquakes? I don't know. This is just kind of speculating. I'm kind of thinking out loud here. Yeah, because this says here we're talking about digging Apophis roof shelters, but you got to be deep enough for seismic shocks. But then you got to look; they've already got billionaire bunkers.
Yeah,
they're already.
I was going to bring that up in a moment.
What do they have? Well, I think there's one over in like Missouri somewhere, if I'm correct, right?
Right.
I remember that.
Now, if you've got a mind and the money, in Salina, Kansas, there is a missile silo that has been converted to condominiums.
Yeah.
$500,000 for a half floor, or $1 million for the entire floor. I don't remember how many stories that is, but there's quite a few apartments there. There's several communication bunkers in the Kansas City metro area that are currently unoccupied that could be converted. It's not like I did the special investigation for the show. I'm interested in these things, so I keep track of them. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. They also have that bunker complex, the old ammo dump or whatever, up in, what is it, South Dakota?
South Dakota, and it's not terribly expensive.
Right.
You have to convert it yourself, but it's not terribly expensive.
Right. And I know from what I've seen on that one, a lot of the people are using solar power, stuff like that, to power their bunkers. Again, depending on where it hit, I mean, how much effect would those have? You know, if you're at the impact zone, you can pretty much bet that you're gone.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you do if you're that close.
Right. You know, if you think about the Tunguska event, you know, I mean, it leveled thousands of acres of forest. Right.
Hey, Enzo, there's several. We'll go looking for them later. They're available.
When they get the, let's say they were able to dig a ton of bunkers, convert bunkers, you know, even Cheyenne Mountain or, oh, sorry, excuse me. Or these other bunkers we're talking about, the missile silos, all that. The government was able to convert all this stuff. Who would get access? That's another question that needs to be posed. I'm sure I'm sure they've already got a plan. You know, I mean, they've planned for the zombie apocalypse. I mean, we've covered that. Was it Op 4888 or something like that, or 8888 or something like that? And it is a zombie apocalypse scenario, and it was a training event, but you know, we've covered it, and it talks a lot about the same stuff that we talk about, you know, except for you're fighting zombies. But who would get access, you know?
I think it would be better to plan for it yourself.
I agree.
For instance, if you are not in the direct area where this asteroid goes off, one of those prefab concrete shelters would probably be quite protective. Pile the dirt up around it. I happen to know, because I was looking, 15-person shelter is only about $6,000. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. And they come dig the hole and put it in for you. So it's not like you have to install anything. It's only $2,000 more than the 5-person shelter. So you might as well get the 15. You don't have to put 15 people in it, but that gives you room for supplies and emergency stuff that you might need during a tornado, during an event of this nature. Because the odds are, if it's a direct strike on your location, it doesn't matter where you're at, it's probably going to be bad. Even if you're in one of these missile silos, they're made to withstand a nuclear blast, but they're not designed to survive a ground strike, which is what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So
look up something real quick. I think you're right about the concrete shelters. I mean, we've looked at them as well, but we kind of have to because we live in Kansas.
We live in Tornado Alley.
Right.
And so they're fairly cheap in this region because there's many companies that sell them. And like I was telling everybody, they'll come dig the hole and put it in for you. 15-person shelter. I can put supplies in for a couple weeks. Some solar panels that I can pull out afterwards if we've got any sun. Store water filtration equipment. If it was me and I found out that that's what was going to happen, that's probably the way I'd go.
Yeah, for sure. I just looked up how deep it would hit, or we're talking Apophis specifically. Right, Enzo, I agree with you there, man. For that, the direct hit is unsurvivable, and also, playing the odds in asteroid strike, it should hit water since Earth is mostly covered with it. You're right, absolutely.
Right, and that's the best case scenario.
Right. But I'm just looking at the crater size. They're based on estimates. Assuming it's a stony asteroid with a density of 3,000 kilogram meters cubed, impact sedimentary rock at 45-degree angle with a speed of 12.6 kilometers per second. It would create a crater approximately 3.2 miles wide, and half a kilometer deep, or 500 meters or 1,640 feet deep. And it's just a basic calculation, or based on calculation from NASA's Near Earth or Object Program. Man, I cannot talk tonight, dude. But yeah, I mean, the key factors are the surface type and how much energy has behind it when it hits. For comparison, Arizona's meteor crater was formed by a much smaller, as a 50 meter iron meteorite. It's 1.2 kilometers wide and 170 meters deep. Apophis' larger size and mass would create a significantly larger, deeper crater, though not as extreme as the dinosaur-killing Chicxulub, I don't know how to pronounce that, which was 150 kilometers wide and 20 kilometers deep. And it said it's assuming a single intact impact. If it's fragmented before the impact, the crater could be shallower but spread over a wider area. It says current data confirms Apophis will not hit Earth in 2029 or for at least 100 years, making this a hypothetical scenario. Right.
We understand that. We deal in hypotheticals.
Absolutely. I really want to go, Enzo. I really want to go. We were talking about going a couple years. I think it was like during COVID and all that stuff. We were talking about making a road trip out to Sedona one summer and stopping and seeing the meteor crater and all that. But I eventually want to go. It'd be pretty cool. Where are we at here? So we've already talked about what's feasible in a year. Let's talk about life underground. Let's say you made the list. I mean, because I'm sure there'd be a short list, of the best and brightest, all that good stuff, quote unquote. All speculation is for you. Right. All speculation is for example only. Let's talk about life underground, man. Of course, you'd have to have a stockpiled food, water, oxygen for 5 to 10 years of darkened skies, if that's what happened. Meteor crater. I'm going to get on a tangent here in a second. Meteor crater's nice. I spent a couple hours there on the way back from Contact 2 years ago. Heck yeah. Enzo, are you going to Contact this year?
I don't think he is.
I know Ben and Joe, I think, are, from the UFO Garage. They're premiering their documentary, I want to say, out there. Hey, Sylvain.
Hey, buddy.
But yeah, those guys are doing great things, man. They just started their podcast back up. They've been kind of on a hiatus. They've been focusing a lot on their documentary. And if you haven't
Good deal.
listened, oh, that's right, Enzo's saving for the van. Um, but yeah, if you haven't listened to the UFO Garage, and that is your thing, go listen to them. They're really good. This new show was great. It was a really good show. They talked about Our Lady Guadalupe or something like that down in Mexico. Talked about the UFO. They kind of catch up on where they've been and all that. But really good episode. I'd highly recommend it. And they're good friends of ours. You know, they really helped us early on get rolling. They've been on the show a few times. They need to have them back on. But anyway, back to the show. We're talking about life underground. You know, food and water, 5 to 10 years, all the necessities, you know, I mean, all your, you know, stuff we've talked about, you know, stuff for living, you know, I mean, living underground, you know, toothpaste, toothbrushes, I mean, you name it, the toiletries, you name it, you're going to need it. We've already beat that horse to death on this show. I mean, it's relevant, obviously,
Yeah.
but I don't think we're really teaching a lot of stuff people don't know that listen to the show.
Right.
Something you want to look out for is the psychological strain of being underground for that long.
Right.
If you're claustrophobic, you don't know. I mean, is this humanity's kind of last hurrah? You know, I mean, are we the only survivors? You don't know. Granted, if it's an Apophis-sized asteroid, there's going to be more survivors than there isn't. You know, and it's unfortunate if somebody's in the impact zone. But what would get us would be the nuclear winter. You know, or what do they call it?
That would devastate crops. It really would. Possibly worldwide. You know, we had several colder winters after Mount St. Helen went off.
Yep.
You know, so all that dust in the air does make a difference. It really just depends on where it hits.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we'll just have to go off of what we're told if we're told anything.
Right.
You know, because really, I truly believe that if the government says anything, it's possibly, I mean, anybody that's listened to the show kind of knows my thoughts on the government, this and that. It's not a, you know, it's not a secret. But how much would you trust what they say?
Not a
As
whole
a
lot.
general consensus. You know what I mean? Again, I mean, if they do let the cat out of the bag, because they're going to have to do damage control, because like you said, it's going to come out.
Right.
It's going to come out one way or another. Somebody's going to run their mouth, probably even under the threat of death. So it's probably going to come out, but then again, the information that we will be given, how reliable would that information be? And I truly believe that wouldn't help the psychological situation.
No.
You know, because of the trust, or the lack of trust, I should say. Yeah,
There's the
Mark sharing the hidey holes.
yeah.
I think you're right.
They're cheap.
Yeah, they are. We've actually looked at getting one here, but we've got a seller right now, so we're not in a hurry about it.
So yeah, they.
Life underground, yeah. You know, I guess Apophis was modeled in a study, and it hit the Atlantic. You know, in that model. Again, you know, we're looking at tsunamis that could possibly flood coastal bunkers, forcing inland or elevated shelters. But I really think the biggest impact early on would be the psychological strain.
Yeah,
That's my
it's
opinion.
coming. It's coming. Where's it going to hit? What's it going to do?
Right. Are we going to be the only ones left? What about the rest of my family? All that's going to come into play. But let's look at what's going on now, tech-wise, that they're using or trying to use to deflect asteroids.
Okay.
The goal obviously would be to nudge Apophis off its collision course. It makes it says it makes it a year's height, but Apophis size makes it a candidate for deflection if we act fast. They have kinetic impactors, the DART mission.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that a few years ago, it was 2022. They shot one or sent one, or the DART mission went to the Dimorphos asteroid, which was an asteroid orbiting another asteroid. And they actually redirected, I think, by 30 minutes. They changed the orbit by like 30 minutes because of this impactor. And I think I remember watching the video footage. It was pretty interesting watching it.
30 minutes could be enough for it to miss Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on how far out it was, I'm only going back to the documentary Armageddon. They split it. No, I don't know. Again, another option. Going back to the documentary of Armageddon, nuclear deflection. Detonate a nuke. Vaporized surface material. Will it create enough thrust? Because obviously nuclear weapons work differently in space because it's vacuum.
There's no air, no shockwave.
It'll be spherical. Will that be enough to nudge it? A gravity tractor, which I'm interested in those. I think that would be cool. But you'd have to have enough fuel and enough thrust to push it off course. I don't know number specific. I'm not that guy to tell you that. I really don't know.
Me neither. Don't look at me.
But it says the spacecraft hovers near Apophis, using its gravity to tug it off course, likely too slow for a 1-year timeline. So I guess my question is, if they have this, I don't even know if they have it. I know it's on a drawing board because I've heard of them before. But if they do have this, why aren't we testing it? Why aren't we testing a gravity tractor?
Maybe they have.
Maybe I haven't heard about it. I don't know.
Well, maybe they have and not told anybody about it.
And this is true. It's possible.
We'd have no idea what that mini space shuttle's been doing. There could be other things.
Yeah, it's been a long time in space for a while, and I think it's back up there now. They don't know what it's doing.
They've got several of them.
Yeah, I think it's more military.
Yeah.
Than anything. That's just my opinion. And then another option is laser ablation. Uses lasers to heat Apophis surface, creating jets of gas to push it. Concepts like D-Star exist but aren't ready yet. Okay.
So
I guess my question. Yes, Enzo said gravity attractors only work when the craft and the rock are similar mass. Okay. So you'd have to have a pretty big gravity tractor then. I wasn't sure if it's something. I guess I don't know a lot about it. I haven't done a lot of research into it. It sounds interesting to me. But the laser ablation, like I said, it's a concept.
That would work really well with comets.
I think so. But if Apophis or any other asteroid is rotating in seveul different directions, how would you know? I guess
it would be hard to heat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how fast it was spinning, depending on how strong the laser was. But then again, with the space treaty, you're not supposed to have any weapons in space. which
Not
I'm
supposed to.
pretty sure it's there. In my opinion, I mean, have you seen all this talk on DEWs? And we've talked about them before, but direct energy weapons. That would have to be something the international community would have to come together and say, hey, this is for, global protection.
Right.
I don't know how they would have to go through that, what kind of treaty they would have to have, who would have to have access to it, for fail safes and, make sure bad actors didn't get a hold of it or something like that, And again, not saying they exist, not saying they don't exist, because I don't 100% know, but I believe they already do.
I would be not shocked at all if I found out that there were a bunch of tungsten rods hidden in orbit.
I wouldn't be shocked at all either. I really wouldn't.
For those of you who aren't familiar with it, there was a research program that was looking into kinetic energy weapons, where they drop a tungsten rod. What was it? The size of a telephone pole?
Yeah, something like similar.
Yes, that would be very similar to Apophis hitting, and we had planned on using that on our enemies. So
yeah, I mean, there's no nuclear fallout.
No, there's no nuclear fallout, and it's really the idea behind it was to hit hardened nuclear sites. So unless you lived near one of those, you'd be okay.
Right.
But
yeah,
there would be dozens of them coming down.
Yeah. And it, I mean, obviously the mathematics would have to be there for a strike, because I don't believe they were guided. I don't think they just dropped them. I think.
They steered them into an orbit, and
yeah. Enzo, he said planetary defense takes priority. I agree with that.
I agree.
I absolutely agree with that. But again, I'm thinking kind of doomsday, I guess, because how do you control who has access to it? It would have to be some kind of treaty, in my opinion. I mean,
it'd have to be a multinational deal. They'd have to have people from every country, or at least from several different countries that weren't necessarily allies.
Right.
Keep everybody honest.
Just for checks and balances.
Yeah.
Make sure that the wrong person didn't get a hold of it, or somebody can't just say, hey, I'm mad at, Tajikistan, let's burn them,
Yeah. So we'd have to have people from the United States, China, Russia, the European Union, probably Africa, just to keep everybody else from, taking it over.
Right.
That's a real risk.
And absolutely, I think it is. Because I don't think, I don't know why, but I was thinking about this a little bit today. I don't believe there will ever be world peace, because humans are barbaric.
We're assholes.
Absolutely.
We really are.
Absolutely. I think Reagan had it the closest. It would have to be an outside threat for everybody to pull together. We can go into the UFO, UAP speculation, this and that. Are they from another planet? Are they from another dimension? We know they're there. But are they a threat? Are they not a threat? Are they here to help us? Are they here to guide us in our development? There's so many questions that could be asked, and this really isn't the show for it.
No.
And I think we're going to get there. I mean, we've got a long list that we came up with of shows to do, and I'm hoping that we can add to them. But I don't really believe. Without checks and balances, you can't just trust the powers that be without turning on people. We're watching a lot of stuff go on in the world right now. Yeah, humans are maniacs. You know, some clowns would try to stop the launch of that ship or of the ship that would save us because their cat told them to. Absolutely, Enzo, you're 100% right.
Yeah. And there's going to be some guy who sneaks a weapon on board so he can take it over, and after saving the world, take it over.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
what was that? Oh man, what movie was that? It had Jodie Foster in it. What movie was that?
Contact.
You remember that? Contact. Yeah, just like the terrorists, you know, were trying to stop it or whatever. You know, they blew the first one up or whatever. That was a good movie.
It really wasn't a bad movie, no.
But there would be somebody like that. You know, there would be, you know, religious zealots that would try to stop it. You know, this is
the end of the world. God
this is God
told
ordained.
us that we have to let it happen. Yeah.
Right. Stuff like that, you know, so you'd have to watch for that stuff. Let's move on a little bit. We know it's coming. They put stopgaps in place. They're trying to make it at least as ineffective as possible. Let's talk about what they would need to do to preserve humanity's knowledge just from an impact on its own. If it hits, the survivors will need to rebuild.
Yep.
Obviously, probably not, you know, the impact zone because it's going to be so heavily destroyed.
Right.
It would disrupt everything. All your systems, your infrastructure, you know, your physical infrastructure, roads, highways, all that stuff, and your digital infrastructure, especially depending on where it hit. If it hit close to a nuclear power plant or...
You could have radiation leaks.
Right. You know, and we're just... I'm really coming at this from if it hit land, not really necessarily ocean. Because we've already determined that if it hit the ocean, the impact wouldn't be as terrible. We're talking an Apophis size.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. All speculation is for example only.
We got to cover ourselves, man.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not trying to get anybody panicked or nothing like that. We don't need somebody knocking on the door saying, hey, you caused this mass panic or paranoia or whatever.
Well, you know, these 5 people who are watching us right now could panic.
Well, that Enzo guy, he's kind of shifty, so you got to watch him.
Yeah, but I like him.
Yeah,
I like him.
But, so that's the aspect we're kind of coming from, is if it made a land impact. That's right, Enzo. You got those shifty eyes. We'd have to see we'd have to figure out a year in advance. We'd have to figure out what to save first. You know, medical knowledge, vaccine, surgical knowledge, and I think that a lot of that would also tie into who's going to the bunkers,
right?
You know, because there's no way you can save almost 8 billion people.
No. The good thing about Apophis size, though, is you're probably looking at someplace the size of a continent.
Yeah.
Most of the rest of the world would be.
Right.
Ish, okay.
Ish, yeah. And I guess they would depend on the nuclear winter. You know, I mean,
right.
How bad is it? How long would it be? I mean, they can run models and run models and run models, but
it's all guesswork.
It's all guesswork. Absolutely. You can put any number in there you want.
Is it going to create a EMP somehow?
Right.
What's it going to do?
Right. But I mean, obviously, we're going worst case scenario.
Worst case
down that road. Worst case.
Let's
Absolutely.
do it.
If it hits a nuclear power plant, you know, that ground's gone. You just know it's gone. They're not going to be able to rebuild it for centuries, probably. But the core knowledge, you know, your medical, your engineering, agriculture,
Big one.
In all honesty, agriculture is dying. Really, the people that want to be into agriculture is dying, and I'm happy personally to see the resurgence in homesteading. People trying to gain that knowledge, to relearn stuff that's been forgotten.
And people who are concerned with the health of the land, these big commercial growers, they don't care.
Yep, absolutely, man. One guy, and I've sit in one of his classes, and I've talked about him before, is Joel Salatin. I was so happy it came out. I think it was right after the president won the election that he was asked to be part of the board with the USDA. And he's such a huge proponent of regenerative farming. Basically letting the land do what the land does. He's such an awesome guy. I highly recommend it. I can't remember what is his channel. I don't remember. Just look up Joel Salatin on YouTube. The man, he's like the face. He's like the modern day face of homesteading. I mean, he built up his farm. There's a really good documentary on Angel TV too. I'd highly recommend it. But he was asked to be on the board of the USDA to speak to regenerative farming and make it better. You know, because like we've talked about with Joe, talking about permaculture, you can grow so much food on just a small amount of land that you'll have an abundance so you can store or share or sell or whatever. We're not quite there. I mean, this year it's kind of been rough, man, with all the rain.
Right.
My wife finally got like 9 million tomato plants planted yesterday. She was busy.
Yay.
But I mean, she got like 48 tomato plants and a bunch of cucumbers and all that. She's planting. I think tonight she's going to plant some squash. Our potatoes are bust because our feeder pigs got out and cleaned us out of 5 rows of potatoes. I think there's like six potato plants left. They just come through and demolished it, man. They got out 3 times in one day. I think I shared this story. But it's extremely important, I mean, for people to understand and have your own knowledge. Don't rely on somebody else. And I think that's one of the biggest points that we try to make on this show is gain the knowledge yourself, whether through books, through your contacts, you know, your community. You know, I mean, the resources are endless.
And get hard copy books.
Yeah, definitely. Gain that knowledge, because the agriculture part, you can physically do something with that.
Right.
You yourself. I mean, you could be personal for that. I mean, it's not like Chaz was here a couple of years ago. You know, they planted a tomato plant and expected to have tomatoes the next day. You know, I mean, was it Chaz? Is that the name of the Seattler when they took over that block or whatever?
Yeah, whatever it is.
You know, the idiots up there. And, you know, these guys had no clue what they were doing. I mean, it takes time. It takes weeks.
Yeah.
Your tomatoes or whatever you're growing to grow. It doesn't happen overnight. Takes care, nurture, all that good stuff.
And that's something we didn't talk about. If I had a year to plan, I would be putting in a garden. Yeah,
absolutely. That would be huge. I mean, at least for you, you know, at least for you, maybe your neighbors.
Right.
You know, if you had enough land or space to grow a good garden. And don't think I wouldn't be meticulous about it. If this was happening,
I would be on it like
white
on
rice.
rice.
Be meticulous. And I'd be almost willing to say, shut my power off. I don't care. You know, I'd be willing to step away from work just to try to survive for the next however long.
Yeah, your job doesn't do you no good if you're dead.
Right.
Here's just an example of a book that might be good for you to put on your shelf.
Yep. I got one right here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it or not. Ooh, this backwards camera's got me. This is a pretty good book too. Definitely have the knowledge. Um,
Hey,
you know,
Jess.
Grand. Hey, Jess, how you doing? Um, Definitely, all this stuff is great. All practical skills are great to have. Know how to purify water. Um, Even bushcraft could come in definitely handy. Something that you can do. I mean, it's going to be rough. I mean, let the people, the doctors and the engineers and all that worry about the big stuff because that's what they're going to be worried about.
Yeah.
They're not
That's
going to
their
be
job.
worried about you specifically. You need to worry about you specifically. You about you and yours. Your elderly neighbor that really can't do much. Um, I truly believe in a situation that bad, it's going to be a survival of the fittest thing. I mean, going to worst case scenario now. I mean, we're not. We're doing what we do best. Worst case scenario. Because if you're prepared for that, you're prepared for the easier times.
Exactly.
A lot of people are saying, your cultural history to avoid a cultural dark age. I say
We're already
yes.
in one.
I absolutely agree with that. But are you going to be worried about literature if you're trying to survive?
Hell no.
No. Again, let the brains worry about that. The people that I believe they're going to put in a bunker, like Svalbard, the seed vault in Svalbard. I think was it Iceland or Greenland or I can't remember, Norway. I don't remember where it's at exactly. Well, Jess, we're worried about you too.
We love you, Jess.
This talks about how in 1 year, the digital vault store humanity's knowledge on radiation hardened servers buried in bunkers, launched to orbit. Think Wikipedia on steroids. Well, we know Wikipedia is not exactly reliable, but okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Physical archives etch key info into durable materials, ceramic or metal plates for low-tech access like post-apocalyptic Library of Alexandria. Again, this would all be great. These examples would all be great on a large scale.
Right.
The knowledge vault, the global knowledge vault modeled on Svalbard seed vault, like I said, storing seeds, DNA, and manuals for rebuilding. It'd be great to have. But I want to look at narrowing it down like we've been talking. You need to worry
Water,
about you.
shelter, food.
Water, exactly. Have food storage. Breaking it down to the basics, guys, just like we try to always do. Yeah, it talks about Apophis, if Apophis hits a populated region, the path of risk is across Russia, Pacific, or Central America from 2008 studies. Urban knowledge hubs could be lost, making decentralized archives critical. Again, this is talking big picture. This isn't talking
You and
individual
me.
specific. Right.
Yeah.
It'd be great, if somebody stumbled across, medication, like penicillin, amoxicillin, your stuff like that. But I want to take that a step further and look at having that stuff on hand. We have options now.
There's a lot of places. Didn't you use Jace case?
Jace case. Yep. I've used JK. I've got Jace case right here. And they keep adding more to their packs,
They are certainly not the only ones.
No, they're not anymore. There's several. I don't remember the names of them, honestly.
Yeah.
But there's several. You can always look. I think Fred Scotty, one of our listeners, he's touched base with me several times about the Jace case and different things, and he said there's ways around that for cheaper because honestly, Jace case is expensive.
It is.
Luckily they will take HSA, stuff like that. But there's other ways around it, talking to your medical providers, stuff like that. They've made it harder to get like antibiotics, and we actually lost one of our piglets just tonight. He's been sick the last couple of days. I've tried to treat him. My wife talked to the vet. and you can't buy anything from feed stores anymore because of the whole fiasco with ivermectin and all that. And they made it illegal to where you can go buy fish biotics, things like that, because people are self-dosing. That's a whole nother debatable subject, but we know how that goes. But that's the biggest thing I want people to come away with is look at your individual needs, for you and yours.
And your doctor is most doctors are more than happy to help you put together something as long as it doesn't include narcotics.
Right. It's something to talk to them about. Medical professionals, whoever you go see. It's things like that we're trying to get you to think about. I mean, like I said, all these examples that we've thrown out here in my outline are big picture items. Things that aren't necessarily going to affect your survival. Society as a whole, yes. Do we need the cultural aspect? Do we need the knowledge? Absolutely. But narrow it down more. Give it some thought. What if we were
That's
a
for
year
your
out
governments and your learning institutions and all that stuff to take care of. You take care of you. Water, shelter, food, transportation if possible. Bicycles are not a bad thing to have.
No.
And I don't have any, obviously.
But yeah, I mean, think small picture.
Yeah.
And unless you're in a what they would consider, essential, we kind of went through that a few years ago.
Right.
If you're an essential job, that to ensure the continuation of humanity, what about the people that aren't considered essential? What are you going to do to survive?
Exactly.
What would you do? What would you do tomorrow if they come out and said, hey, we have a year before an asteroid hits? What would you do? Seriously, think about it. That's just all we're trying to bring attention to. Yeah. Just said she'll loan you Raven's old bike, Mark. Said it's got a basket of bell and sparkly string.
I would look really good on that. Thank you, Jess. You're worried about me. I appreciate it.
That's right.
But seriously, and if the infrastructure takes a crap because of something like this, you're not going to have gas.
No.
So how are you going to get out? Bicycle is a good choice. A bicycle can be hooked up to a generator.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get in shape real good providing power to keep your necessities functional.
Right.
All kinds of things you can do.
Yep. I mean, just think small picture this time.
Yeah.
Because that's what's gonna affect you. Would we all be affected? Yes, we would.
Everybody on the planet to some extent.
There's not going to be FEMA. There's not going to be none of that. It's going to be survival of the fittest. It's going to be every man for himself. I hate to say that. That's why it's important.
In the region it happens. It certainly will be.
Yeah. It'll be definitely easier on outlying, but your supply chain is going to break down, all that good stuff. It's going to be a cascading event. A
lot of stuff not related to the event's going to happen. A lot of the stuff we talk about, supply chain issues.
And let's be real. Something we didn't even touch on was the public reaction. Let's say they do come out, they're honest, and they tell us the public reaction from a year out. Riots, looting, people are going to be scared. And that's why I say I don't believe they would really even tell us,
No, I think they would keep it quiet.
at least for as long as they could.
Say, oh, guess
But
what? That happens next week.
Right. So my suggestion is to be proactive and take steps. Because the more steps you have in place now would be the less steps you have to take in the future in case
Right.
this event or any other event happens. With that being said, I don't really have a whole lot more, Mark.
I really don't either. Just remember 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months.
That's right.
Start small. 3 days,
Start
3
small.
weeks. You know, and you don't have to do all this at once.
Nope.
It's, well, you know, the year thing that could put you on a timeline. But I pick up a little bit here, a little bit there. I haven't spent a ton of money on anything. I need to get my stuff organized all together, but I've got electrical preps. I've got food preps. I've got medical preps. I have a little bit of everything. 3 months or 3 days, 3 months, 3 years. Just follow the threes.
Yep. Just start small, a little bit at a time. It adds up quick. And something to seriously think about with that aspect. I mean, they're speculating with everything going on right now. There's going to be supply chain issues.
Right?
It wouldn't hurt to start if you haven't started.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could
don't
be
forget-
anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't, especially I think with the climate right now, it wouldn't take much. You know,
Yeah.
and more of this stuff we're going to cover in the future. We have a lot of really good ideas down on paper. We've got them planned out. I'm going to say a bad word, but you probably haven't heard from Mark and I ever. But we're actually trying to get organized.
I'm a teeny bit organized now. Those of you who have been watching On the Fringe, I've actually seemed semi-organized. So I apologize that I'm not fully organized, but that will probably never happen. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going
I
to lie.
think Pam and Jess have kind of rubbed off on us about getting organized, and
They have. I even have a planner that looks almost identical to Jessica's. I feel so accomplished.
Jess's mind's blown. Ken said, "No way."
No, I know, right? You're right. I'm a teeny tiny bit organized now. We're going to try to do a little bit better than that, but
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, and Mark can confirm. Before show and backstage, we were talking, and I told Mark I'm gonna have to make a schedule so I can post daily on X. So we'll see how
reminder
far it
on
goes.
your phone. Ding.
Exact something, yeah. But anyway, folks, we do appreciate you guys hanging out. Appreciate you guys
Really
in the chat.
do. Thank you so much.
The pigs have flown, yes. And a place down south is freezing over.
Well, it's just a frost. We
Right.
It's not that bad. Frost warning is on the HE double hockey sticks.
Next show, the next What If Tomorrow. Right, I know, Ken, it does. The organizing, it scares him more than current events. The next show, Mark and I are looking at AI becoming the ultimate threat. We've talked about a lot about AI here recently. We're going to do a little bit deeper dive. So keep a lookout for that. Also, we have some stuff working on YouTube. Hope to have the first one out next week. So be checking out that too. I mean, I can't even talk, can I? I've had that trouble all night. Be looking for that. It may not happen next week, but we're shooting for next week for it to happen on YouTube on What If Tomorrow. What are you guys talking about Monday, Mark?
Monday we are talking about Nephilim.
Nephilim. Oh man, that'd be cool. But I think I want to join that one, but I don't know
If
I
you got
can.
time, we'll take you.
See what I've got. Hey, I might be able to. If we hold our standing in soccer, it's soccer season right now. And right now we're in first place. If we hold our standing, I should be able to make it because playoffs
right.
start Monday. If we don't hold our standing, well, we'll be playing. So I want to be there, but I'm not going to make any promises.
I got you.
We're trying to finish up. We're hopefully finish the season strong. So
All right. Good luck.
I'm looking for a three in a row championship. So
Sweet.
hoping for it.
Night,
Kid
Jess.
doing.
Night, Sylvain.
See you, Jess. See you, Sylvain. But yeah, come join us talking about AI again. We're looking at it from a little bit different perspective of what we've looked at. We've talked a little bit more about the nuts and bolts in the past, but we're looking at scenarios. Again, we're trying to change things up to improve our content that we're giving you guys. Trying to get away from the politics.
Absolutely.
We're trying to get away from that. Hope you guys enjoy the content. If you do enjoy the content more, let us know that you like the route we're taking. And if you don't like it, let us know. I mean, let us know what you guys are looking for, because ultimately this show is for you guys. Mark and I can do this anytime we want to do it, to, talk to each other.
Yep.
Granted, we don't see each other at work as much anymore, but we can get on here. We've got on here and talked before just to talk. So yeah, by any stretch of imagination, if you guys like or don't like it, shoot us a message. Let us know, because
Let us know on X. Let us know on email, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not following us on X, we're trying to get a bigger presence on X. And like I said, this is the first show we are actually streaming on X. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see if we have any. Yeah, we got 2 on X that are watching. Cool.
Nice.
So welcome, guys. If this is your first time watching us on X, definitely thanks for joining us. I wasn't expecting that. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you next episode.
Good night, all.